Alright, so we've got a very simple setup here for the shape I'm trying to make, which is basically going to be a spiral ramp that follows around this circular shape. And so I'm going to go into my south elevation just so that you can see the heights again, and we can see that the platform there is 500 above the ground. And then I have a level there above, level 1, which, yeah, I think I'll leave that at 4,000. So that, oh no, so just to make the maths a bit simpler, I'll make that 4,500, sorry. So it's going to be 4 metres from the top of the platform to level 1. And I'll go back to ground floor, and then you can see there you've got the ramp tool. It's easier in some ways than the stair tool, but you do need to have some idea of the main constraints that are involved when you're creating a ramp, and I'll show you those. So clicking on the ramp tool, the most important constraint is the slope. And to change that, you need to go to Edit Type, and then you'll see you have this ramp max slope. So that is a gradient. You can see there 1 over x. So x is the number that you type in over here. And so if you want a 1 in 10 ramp, you simply type 10 there. We want a, well, I'm going to try a 1 in 14 ramp. And then you can see the maximum incline length there is 12,000. And as far as I know, in the Australian standard, it is 9,000. So I'll just show you, I do have the standard here. 1428, here it is. So here we are. Okay, so one in 14 and landings every 9,000, I'm fairly sure. I just don't want to read through all of this. So that's one option. The other option, if we have a ramp that isn't so steep, if we go to 1 in 20, then we can have landings at greater intervals. So if I do a ramp that's 1 in 20, then we can have landings every 15 metres, which may work better here. So I'll show you the difference. So if we go back there to make this 9,000, just an example, click OK, and then I want a circular ramp. So I'm going to change to the, also a curving ramp, so I'm going to change to the arc option there using the run tool. And then my width here is 2,000, so I'm going to put that in. It's just like making a stair. You put in these properties before you draw anything. And then we also know that it's going from the ground floor, but 500 above, and then up to level 1. So the problem now is that I can't snap to the centre line of the platform that I've made there. So to make my life easier, I'm going to go to the Annotate tab and draw in a, so if I cancel this, oh no, I can't do a detail line in a ramp, so I'll have to draw in a reference plane. Let's see if I can snap to the middle of it. Is that going to work? No, sorry, that won't even work. So I should have done a bit more setup. I'll cancel this, sorry, I wasn't thinking. Okay, normally you could just draw a reference plane, but because you can't draw curved reference planes, I've just had to cancel drawing the ramp, and I'm going to go and make a detail line. And I'm going to draw a circle, and I'll make a dashed line, just so that it's a bit clearer. And I'm going to type SC just like before to snap to the centre of my platform, and then make it 9,000. So all these little things will make life a lot easier if you have lines to trace over. So now back to making the ramp again. To go to edit type again to put those values in, so 14 for the slope and 9,000 for the length. Change the curve option, and also I'm going to change the width there to 2,000. So now I can type SC to set the center point of the arc, and then I'm going to click a point on that detail line that I've drawn, and notice that it's only going to go a certain distance. So anyone want to be brave and guess why it's stopping where it is? So you can see there I can go from here and then it's going to come to this. So exactly, that's right. It's not the end of the ramp, it's just where the landing needs to go. So that's the 9,000. And then to start a new point, I need to type SC again to set the center point for that curve. And then I can start a new point for the next ramp and then continue around. So it's going to put the landing in automatically. And then just keep going like that. You can see it's telling me 18,000 created, 43,000 remaining. So that can give you an indication how long ramps need to be with that slope that's required. So again here I can just keep typing SC to get the center point each time, and that's something people will often forget as well. And you can probably tell already though, I'm at 27,000, I've got 34,000 to go, and I've gone more than halfway. So, in other words, more than halfway around my circle. So I can't possibly go to level 1 without going over the top of the ramp that I've already made. Now you do have that option, you can go over the top, but it will make it more prone to errors, and so often it's better to break it up into smaller ramps. So here I've got the ramp, I'll show you in the 3D view, the ramp's working. And we'd fix the railing probably as well. It's actually nice that it gives you a railing automatically. You're going to need a railing probably, but it doesn't need to be that ugly one. And now I forgot to put in the offset that time, but I can easily go there now and change that in properties. So it starts at the top of my floor. So that's all good, but then like I said, it's better to break it up. So if I go to the south elevation, I can either make a new level, but I'll show you a really good trick. I can copy a level that's already there, and I'm going to call this mezzanine. And we're going to make that height 2500. And notice how the arrow is black. And what that tells you is that there's no view associated with it. So I've got ground floor and level 1, but no mezzanine in between. Because I don't need a mezzanine floor plan. If I decide later that I want one, I can always go to the View tab, and then go to Plan Views, Floor Plans, choose mezzanine. But I don't want one, so I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm going to go back now and change this ramp, so I'm going to select it, and then go to Edit Sketch, and I'm actually going to delete that last run, and I'll remake it if I have to. Well, I will have to, but I'll show you why I've deleted it in a second. So I'm just going to change the top level now to mezzanine. So notice how now it tells me 18,000 created and only 8,600 remaining. So I can go back to Run, Arc, SC, just snap to the centre again to start the curve. So you've just got to force yourself to remember that you always start drawing the curve by giving the centre point. Then you give the start of the arc and then the end of the arc. And so unfortunately we've got 65.6 remaining. So rather than having a silly little ramp at the end there, what I'll probably do is bring this one back, make it a bit shorter, and then go and make a new one Again, SC, tracing over, and it's slightly longer. So I'll probably adjust some of these others as well, but that should give you the basic idea. So if I tick to finish in the 3D view, automatically I've got this curving up. So that's with 1 in 14. If we go to 1 in 20, where we'll get longer intervals, so we can go 25 metres. So this total length is, well, let's have a look. Using the arc length dimension, you can actually measure from, let's say from here, or actually, sorry, I'll draw in a detail line and just draw an arc. Tracing from the corner there, actually this goes from the centre and to the end. Okay, so now I can measure that arc. And so what am I doing this a slow way? Here we go, just go to dimensions and then arc length, and I should be able to measure that one now. There we are. That's it. Okay, so 32 metres. So if I have intervals at 25 metres, I'm still going to need a landing, but I only need one landing. So, well, sorry, but actually that's with the 1 in 33 slope, so the ramp will be a bit more than twice as long. So, so we're still going to need a few landings either way. Okay, so then also, this ramp is only going to mezzanine, so I'd need to make another ramp now, this time starting at the mezzanine level and going up to level 1. Back to the curve tool, and I will again SC, so just doing this a bit faster now. So, it's a little bit time consuming, but it's still much, much easier than modelling it all from scratch. Oh, that's right, it's parametric, so yeah, that's right, it is pretty easy to change. Yep. And I'll show you the Helix modelling tool in Max, and you'll see why things like this are always a little bit daunting. Okay, so I've done my, my 2 ramps, but the railings don't match, so I'll change those. And then we've got a gap because they are separate, and I need to put a floor in to fill that gap. So I can do that in any view, and it might be easiest actually in level 1. So I'll go to the floor tool and just use pick lines to pick the things I've already drawn. Trim that all off. And then, like I was showing before, I don't have a mezzanine floor plan, but I can simply change the level. I might do it after I've finished the floor, and I can just change that to mezzanine. And now I've got that floor in between, then I can just add railings either side the same way. So using the railing tool there, I can just pick that. In fact, sorry, I'll use that edge there, and the pipe. And again, change the level to mezzanine. Getting the heights to match up exactly can be a little bit tedious. They do match there. The problem isn't the heights actually, it's the way the edges are showing. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. And when it's rendered, you won't notice any difference. Okay, so things like ramps are actually pretty good with Revit, but if you wanted to model that using the solid modelling tools, it's actually impossible. There is no solid modelling option that will give you that shape. The only way would be to use the massing tools that I showed you much earlier. So using all of those, abstract modelling tools that you have when you go to, if you remember this one, conceptual mass. You can make it using those tools, but it's much, much more difficult than what I just showed you. So that's the easiest way. If you need to do a ramp, that's by far the easiest way. However, if you need to do shapes like that, there is a tool in 3dsMax just for things like that. I'll show you it. Okay, so now I could obviously fix those columns up, but I'll do that later. So what I want to do now, though, is try using some of the modelling tools in Max. So I just wanted to go over the way you can transfer fairly easily from Revit, just on the main menu, using the suite workflows. And you can there go to 3dsMax Design Interior Rendering, and that will take us straight into 3dsMax. So I'm just going to choose that option, click Run. So how are you planning on walking through these columns?
I just have them there for
Hold it up. Yeah. Are you going to put holes in them, or they walk around them, or make them smaller?
Oh, maybe smaller.
Yeah.
Maybe on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Yep. That's right. No, that's funny. So so here you're going to get these three options. If you've already got 3dsMax open, you can just choose Active Max Session, and then choose the untitled file. So I've already got Max open down here with a blank file. So, yep. And that's really why I do use Autodesk programs where possible. Rhino is a great program, and Lightwave is another one that I used to use and like a lot. But they just don't have these integrated ways of working with the other programs that the Autodesk ones have. Okay, so there I've got my Revit file in Max, and I'll just click Render so you can see it's all come across with the grass material, all the other materials, the lights, everything. So like I said, these Autodesk programs had these linked workflows built in that do make life a lot easier. So, and it's going to become more important over the next few years, because there's a lot, like I've been telling you, a lot of changes happening with the rendering tool set in these programs. Revit is losing Mental Ray. It's lost it actually. 2017 doesn't have Mental Ray. So you've got the ART renderer, which is a new rendering engine. 3dsMax has retained it. So if you want to use Mental Ray going forward, you have to use 3dsMax for that. Can't use Revit anymore. Yeah, you can stick with 2016, but 2017's got some good stuff. So, no. They're ditching it altogether from Revit. They're trying to move away from it. I think Arnold's the way things are going to go. With 3dsMax and Maya, that's definitely where things are heading. I'm not sure with Revit. I think with Revit they're really trying to get away from it being used as a rendering tool, because I think people are becoming over-reliant on that side of it and not using it as a BIM tool, which is really what it's designed to do. Okay, so anyway, I just want to show you quickly that all of that stuff's come in from Revit. And now I can model further. So, like I was telling you, helixes can be very difficult to make in Revit. In 3dsMax, you have, when you go to the Shapes panel, so here's it's on Create, and then Shapes, you have helixes. So I might want to make a spiralling shape coming up through the middle there. So I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm going to bring it up, and you can see there's my helix. I'm not really worried what the shape is, because unlike Revit, I can adjust this on the screen fairly intuitively. So it's going to bring back the viewports, clicking on that button down in the bottom right corner, and then I'm going to click on the zoom extents all selected so I can see the helix in all my views. So that's the button above the bottom right corner, down there. last button in that top row in the view controls. And then you can see that I can adjust all of these properties, so I can change the radius. Oops, it's going a bit slow there, so it's just trying to do an autosave. Here we go. Okay, so I can adjust the radius for the bottom part of the curve. I can adjust the radius for the top of the curve. I can adjust the height. And when you see the other viewports, it makes it clearer what you're looking at. I can also change the turn, so that's only doing one turn, but if I increase the turns, you'll see it look more like what you think of as a spiral. And actually, when you're getting used to the sorts of geometry that you need to work with when you're designing 3D forms, there's a lot of confusion about what a spiral is as opposed to a helix. So, and I think a lot of it's because people call spiral stairs, when they're really not a spiral, they're a helix. So a helix is a curve that's changing height, so it's rising and curving. A spiral can be flat and the radius changes, so it can spiral inwards or outwards, and that's what you can see there in the top viewport. That's a spiral. This is a spiral and a helix. Well, it's a helix. I mean, helixes are basically a 3D version of a spiral. Yeah, so that's all a helix is. It's just a spiral that's changing height. And so there you can see if I increase the number of turns. And so that path then can control the ramp. It can taper inwards or outwards. And because Max is what it is, it gives you a lot of other options for modelling that you don't get with programs like Revit. So you can just go into properties. A nice simple thing I always like to do with Splines is turn on these spline viewport options. So you go enable in renderer, enable in viewport, and I'll set it to rectangular. So you can see there, if I change the length and the width there, it's like I've done a quick extrusion. So we can make it look a bit more 3D. Now the problem is that won't work as a ramp because it's banking. In other words, it's following the curve, sloping inwards. So it could, absolutely, and it is brilliant for. So if you never need to do a ribbon or some sort of twisting, curving shape that's going through your space that just needs to have some depth or width, that's a brilliant way of doing it. You don't need to use extrude or sweep or any of that stuff. You just draw your spline and give it a length and a width. Or it can be radial, so you can have a curving one, and they can work really well as well. So that's one option. Or you actually have all of the modelling tools that Revit has, of course, so you can make a sweep, and again, being the program it is, it's got all of the standard stuff built in. So if you need to just do a rectangular shape, that's built in, and you can then give that a width and height in the same way. But the advantage is you can turn banking off, so that will make it just like a ramp. And how easy is that? So I feel it. Okay, so remember, it's still just a helix, so I can still change these properties. I can go back to the helix there and change the turns. I can change the radius. All those things, much more interactive than Revit in a way. But I can't go in and put in the standard building controls, things like a slope as a gradient and telling it to have a landing every so often. I'd have to work that out myself. And that's really the difference in the way these programs work. So for things like ramps, if you want to do really fluid forms like this, 3dsMax can be a useful tool. But what I really wanted to show you is that if you want to make some completely different forms where you have geometry that you want in a more, I suppose, free-form way, got a few different tools. You have let's go back to standard primitive. So you've got editable polys. If I start with a box. Also, let's start with a plane this time. Just keep it really simple. A flat surface. Okay, so I can make a plane. And I'm going to make it over to the side here, just so that you can see it. So from what we were looking at earlier, do you remember what to do if you want to just stretch any of those points? Yeah, you can, yeah, but then what do you have to do first to change it? There's just one option you've got to remember. So when you right-click, you've got these options, Convert To, and then Editable Poly is probably the first one to look at. So whenever you right-click on anything in Max, you can go Convert To, Editable Poly, and there it is. Now you can see Editable Poly over here, and I'll just go to Vertex, and I can stretch any of these points. Now, I've got quite a few points there. You can see that I've got 4 vertexes on each side. So if I go back, I'm just going to undo that. If I go back to the plane, just using undo, I'm going to reduce those to just 2 on each side. And then now if I do the same thing, right-click, Convert to Editable Poly, click on Vertex, and you can see then that I've just got 3 vertexes on each side, in other words 2 segments on each side. So I'm going to select one of them and then just stretch that up. Stretch this up a bit. And I think, well, that's all right, but it's all straight edges. There's no nice organic curves there. But if you've seen any 3D games, or even a lot of the 3D modelling you'll see in movies, this is how they do a lot of it, because the geometry is fairly simple. It's all nice, simple, straight lines, and that keeps the number of faces down to a minimum. Then to make it appear smooth or curved, you just need to add one more modifier, and a really good one is Turbo Smooth, and that will smooth it out for you and make it look like a curve. And you can add in more iterations to make it more detailed. And I'll just show you if we go and look in with edge faces on, you can see then the level of detail that it's got. Okay, so that will let you create freeform sails and other shapes like that using fairly simple geometry. So I can show you NURBS and patches and things like that, which is another approach, but this is a fairly standard approach. So you can see there's my Turbo Smooth modifier above the Editable Poly. And so I can now go back and change that. If I go back to Editable Poly, you can see it's a fairly simple object. I can go back to the vertex points there and move those around to get a different form. So I don't know, something like that. Just try something different. It's actually not what I was expecting, so I might just undo that last one. Actually bring this one back a little bit. There we go. Okay, so then I don't even need to get out of this mode to see the finished result. You've got this button here that looks like a pipe, and that is the Show End Result toggle. So if you click on that, it will show you the finished smooth result. And it's that easy. So there you can see I've got this organic sort of sail form, which could work inside that ramp there. And I know physical models can be a lot of work. I've done a lot in my time. And when you have to create forms like this, it becomes nearly impossible. I know you can get bits of paper and twist them and bend them and do other things like that, but then to use accurate measurements and also to do it with other materials that aren't as flexible, like foam core and balsa and things like that, is extremely difficult. And that's why computer modelling is generally used for this sort of geometry. Okay, so you can combine that with anything you do in Revit. So things that you can create using exact measurements, you can create using Revit, of course. And it's great for all these automatic things, ramps, railings, floors, walls, doors, and windows. But then things that can't be made using Revit, Max is always going to be a really good option because it does integrate so well with Revit.
So maybe as for our client, then starting Revit do as much as you can and then take it into
Exactly. That's right.
and
Yeah.
then you can take it back into Revit.
Unfortunately, not as easily. You can take pieces back, but I can't just switch this whole thing back to Revit now. It's one way, really, unless I want to just get, like I can get this piece and export it in a different format, and then I'd have to import that back into that Revit file I was working in, which is often, it's fiddly and it's not really worth it. You do this most of the time for the 3D views. In your plan and your section and other orthogonal views in Revit, you'll often show a simplified version for things like that. You don't want them messing up your floor plan, so often you just can draw detail lines and use dashed lines and things like that to give an indication of the shape of those things. So it might be something like that you have, things sitting over the floor plan, just to give some idea how they relate to it. Right, so anyhow, that's the basic workflow. And then the final thing I should say there is that this is obviously a separate file in Max, so we need to make sure that's saved. So I'm going to save that with the things I've just done. There you go. And they've done a lot to simplify the workflow. It used to be much more complicated than this. So now it's all fairly well linked together. So if I make changes in Revit, so I might go back and fix up those columns. So I might need to change the height of them. I'll show you later how we can do a height parameter for those. But for now, what I might do just to make it simple is stretch it in the family, save it, load it, and have them all change. Obviously I need to make them all have a different height later, but just so you can see that I've made a change. And now to update that change into 3dsMax, back to Suite Workflows, 3dsMax Design Interior Rendering, run, and just go through the process again. So it'll pick up that the file's already there and relink it. Occasionally, it's pretty good though these days, pretty stable. So there, it's detected that it's open. And I mean, with these computers, these are proper workstations, so they should be fine with all of this. These are fairly simple files for these computers. And there we are, so that's going to bring in my changes, and there you can see it's got the columns with the changes I've just made, but it's kept the things I've modelled using Max. And the purpose of this really is rendering, so, or 3D perspective views generally. So there, when I render, obviously I've got the Revit stuff, but then the Max stuff in there as well. That's all there is to it. And it's a valuable skill. I mean, most graduates these days are expected to have skills with some 3D package. And 3dsMax is kind of the industry standard, but Rhino is another useful one that I think you should know, or it's good to know. Maya as well, SketchUp a little bit as well. And they're very similar though. Once you know one, you can easily pick up the others. Rhino, 3dsMax, Maya, Softimage even, are all quite similar programs. SketchUp I think is a little bit more like a CAD program in some ways, but still not really a CAD program. So it's a bit different to the others. But again, once you learn one, the others are very similar. So there we are. So that's rendering away. And so don't forget, if you want to use MentorRay from 2017 onwards, you've got to do it with 3dsMax. But don't think you lose anything that you have in Revit. It has all the rendering engines that Revit has, including the cloud. So you can render to cloud from 3dsMax, just like you can from Revit. So you can see there, cloud rendering, and all the other rendering engines. 2016 doesn't have ART, but 2017 does. Yeah.